It began with a meeting inside the obsidian chamber of the Dravarian High Command. The chamber, shaped like a perfect sphere suspended above a sea of plasma, was where empires fell and destinies were forged. Grand Admiral Korvek stood at the center, his clawed fingers wrapped around the curved edge of the command altar. A dozen admirals formed a circle around him, their crimson armor reflecting the burning light from below. For centuries, the Dravarians had expanded unchecked. From the frozen moons of Zelkara to the molten core worlds of Yithrax, no species had ever posed a serious challenge. Worlds crumbled beneath their boots, and their banners were etched into the bones of conquered planets. Earth, labeled Planet 442X in their archives, was nothing but a blue-green anomaly on the edge of a spiral arm. Its signals had been intercepted for decades, its technology studied and dismissed. Primitive, disorganized, emotionally erratic, and worst of all, divided. To Korvek, it was an insult that such a species remained unclaimed. He raised his voice, guttural and metallic, echoing through the silence. "The humans do not yet belong to the Empire. This is unacceptable." No one dared challenge him. Fleet Marshal Harks leaned forward, her 4 eyes gleaming. "We have monitored them for over 50 cycles. Their weapons are still based on combustion. Their ships barely scratch the void. They do not even control their own moon." Another admiral scoffed. "The Terrans are fractured, separated by languages, creeds, and petty ideologies. We do not need to conquer them. We need only arrive." Korvek clenched his jaw. "Then we will arrive, and we will not take chances. I want overwhelming force, a statement." And so the order was issued. A full armada of 9,900 ships, the largest ever assembled against a single non-spacefaring species, would descend upon Earth. Not to negotiate, not to warn, but to dominate. The preparations were swift. War engines groaned awake, dormant since the Battle of the Methrion Abyss. Dreadnoughts shaped like jagged crescents were fueled and armed. Each vessel was equipped with enough firepower to raise continents. At the center of it all stood the command flagship, the Oblivion Worm, a vessel so large it bent gravity as it moved. Korvek stood on its bridge, eyes locked on a holographic projection of Earth, slowly rotating. He zoomed in on the continents, Africa, Asia, the Americas, and sneered. So many boundaries for such a small species. The journey took less than 4 solar days. Folding space left trails of quantum turbulence across neighboring systems. As the armada approached, a few Earth satellites briefly picked up strange distortions before going offline. On board the Oblivion Worm, communications officers intercepted Earth transmissions, news reports, entertainment signals, emergency broadcasts, all chaotic, all meaningless. Korvek allowed himself a grin. They're not even aware of what's coming, yet something was off. As the armada entered the outer rim of the Sol system, the crew began detecting unexplainable anomalies. Small distortions, sensor echoes, shadow signals that appeared and vanished. Nothing threatening, just strange. Dismissed as noise, Earth's moon loomed closer, cratered and lifeless. No defenses detected. The fleet descended into Earth orbit with precision. 9,900 ships in formation, a black shroud eclipsing the sun. From Earth's surface, amateur astronomers began noticing flickers in the sky, dark specks moving against the stars. But by then, it was far too late. Korvek activated the Global Communication Array. A single message, translated into hundreds of languages, was transmitted across every possible channel: radio, satellite, internet, television. "This is Supreme Admiral Korvek of the Dravarian Empire. Your planet is now under our dominion. Do not resist. Your civilizations will be reorganized. Your species will serve. Your cultures will be preserved only if deemed valuable." He waited. No response. No attempts at diplomacy. No mass surrenders. Just silence. Then, the signals began to vanish. One by one, Earth's satellites went dark. GPS signals blinked out. Military communications were jammed. Weather stations shut down. The Armada's long-range scans picked up nothing. Confusion rippled across the fleet. Communications officers scrambled to re-establish data feeds. Onboard AI systems recalibrated their sensors. Something was blocking the signals, but there were no visible defense platforms. No missiles, no kinetic countermeasures, just atmospheric silence. Fleet Marshal Harks stepped onto the bridge beside Korvek. Perhaps it is a form of surrender, a shutdown protocol. No, Korvek growled. It's too controlled, too fast. They're hiding something. Moments later, the outer perimeter ships began detecting fluctuations in Earth's upper atmosphere, faint bursts of ionization followed by a complete data blackout. Then came the first report. Warship 7713 destroyed. No visual on attacker. Impossible, someone whispered. Korvek barked an order. Deploy observation drones, all directions. I want eyes. Thousands of drones launched into orbit. Most vanished within seconds. Only a few returned any footage at all. Grainy, distorted video showing a streak of blue light too fast to track, followed by the warship splitting in half. No missile trails, no heat signatures, just precision destruction. The fleet's command matrix scrambled to identify the source. No known weapons could behave like this. No human nations possessed such capabilities. This doesn't make sense, Harks muttered. Korvek stared at the hollow space where 7713 once floated. It makes perfect sense, he said coldly. We were wrong. Panic was not a concept familiar to the Dravarians, but unease began to grow. The fleet's AI support systems experienced latency. Code fragments looped unnaturally. Quantum processors began to heave, as if some unseen force was pressing against them. Then came a new alert. Warship 4381 has disappeared. No explosion, no signal, just gone. By the hour's end, 24 ships had been lost. No human broadcasts, no retaliation from Earth, just erasure, systematic and surgical. Korvek clenched his fists. They're not responding because they don't need to. They've already prepared. Still, he would not back down. His empire's pride was on the line. He ordered the fleet to spread into global formation, a full orbital net. Ships moved into position above major cities, ready to strike at a moment's notice. But even as the Earth rotated below, quiet and defenseless, more ships continued to vanish from the grid. Silently, efficiently, without resistance or explanation. And so, in the final hour of the first day, the Dravarian fleet, the most powerful armada ever assembled, hung above a quiet blue planet, uncertain and haunted by shadows. What should have been a swift conquest had become something else entirely, a game of unknown rules, a war of silence. And Korvek, staring into the clouds below, realized for the first time in his career, Earth was not what it seemed. The second day began without sunlight. From above, Earth looked the same, oceans reflecting the stars, clouds swirling in soft spirals. But to those aboard the Dravarian fleet, the silence had grown hostile. The orbital net remained in place, but it had thinned. Entire sectors were now marked in crimson on the tactical grid, denoting ships lost without trace or explanation. A dozen admirals had sent requests to retreat and regroup. Supreme Admiral Korvek denied each one without response. He no longer spoke unless necessary. Inside the command bridge of the Oblivion Worm, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Systems were running below standard efficiency. Sensor suites refused to maintain lock on surface targets. Drones deployed during the night had gone mute. Only one managed to return, half melted and spinning, its data core corrupted. It had nothing useful to offer. And then, for the first time since arrival, Earth responded. Not with words, not with light, but with shadows. It began over Central Asia. Warship 7129, stationed directly above a mountainous region, reported sudden movement on the ground. Not missiles, not energy signatures, just terrain reshaping itself. The video feed showed an expanse of forest collapsing into itself like a slow-breathing lung. Before command could react, the ship lost altitude. Not from damage, not from mechanical failure. It simply fell, as if gravity had changed direction. The ship spiraled and crashed into the upper atmosphere, burning silently across the night sky. Civilians below watched in awe, believing it to be a meteor. The feed ended as the hull melted mid-descent. On the bridge, Korvek leaned forward, observing the final seconds. "Send in a recon shuttle. I want that site analyzed." Fleet Marshal Harks obeyed without question. She selected the most experienced scout captain aboard the fleet, Commander Vrel, a tactician known for his calm under pressure. He launched with a team of 6, descending in a sleek black shuttle designed for rapid insertion and extraction. As the craft pierced Earth's cloud layer, all communications from the vessel ceased. After 16 minutes, the fleet picked up a signal. It was not a transmission, but a feed-live footage from the shuttle's onboard recorder. Vrel stood in a clearing surrounded by scorched trees. His helmet camera jittered as he scanned the area. The trees appeared untouched by wind. There were no animals, no wind, no sound. "I've reached the impact zone," he said, "but there is no debris, no wreckage. It's gone." Corvette narrowed his eyes. "Gone?" Vrel moved forward. "This forest is wrong. The soil is metallic. The roots shift when I step. Wait, something is—" The feed glitched violently. Then, silence. 12 minutes later, the shuttle returned. Empty. Its airlock opened with a hiss. Inside was only a suit, Vrel's armor, folded neatly on the floor. Not burned, not torn, just placed. As if someone or something had removed him with surgical precision. The armor still held his neural link. Harks uploaded the last neural imprint. It screamed. Corvette crushed the data core with his fist. Retaliation was no longer a consideration. It was a necessity. He ordered a coordinated planetary strike. No more observation, no more caution. Each ship was to fire a precision plasma burst at pre-selected human military installations. No nuclear zones, no cities, only bases. The goal was clear. Display force without eradicating the species. The order went out. Thousands of warships charged their plasma cores. The targeting grid lit up. Dozens of human military bases across 6 continents were locked in place. The fleet awaited the final authorization code. Corvette gave it. Nothing happened. Weapons failed to discharge. Hark's voice trembled for the first time. Command link disrupted. Core access rerouted. "How?" Corvette roared. The bridge darkened. Monitors flickered. A new signal had overridden the fleet's mainframe. It was not coming from outside. It originated from within the ships. A transmission in the human alphabet appeared on every screen, translated into Dravarian script. "We see you. We warned you." And then, across the fleet, the holographic star maps rotated. But Earth was no longer in the center. Instead, a new model displayed Earth as the heart of a vast web. Tens of thousands of dark zones surrounding the planet in spherical formation. Places no Dravian ship had ever scanned, invisible to their sensors. Each zone began to blink red. "What are those?" Harks whispered. Corvette stared at the map, expression frozen. "Satellites," he said. "Thousands of them, cloaked. We never saw them." An alert rang through the bridge. "Orbital breach detected." The Dravarians looked skyward. From behind the moon, 20 metallic obelisks moved into view. They didn't resemble ships. They had no engines, no heat signatures, no life signs. Yet they accelerated, as if gravity itself had chosen to throw them forward. The first obelisk pierced warship 2219 in a clean, straight shot. The vessel did not explode. It unraveled. Its hull folded inward. The crew inside simply vanished from all vitals. One moment alive, the next, data not found. More obelisks followed. 4 ships were gone in a blink, then 5 more. None of the vessels even fired in response. The Dravarians had never seen such technology. Corvette screamed into the intercom. "All ships, counterfire! Shoot 'em down!" The fleet obeyed. Beams of plasma, arcs of ion energy, kinetic rounds, every weapon deployed. The sky lit up with raw fury. None of the shots connected. The obelisks danced around the weapons like falling leaves in the wind. Without changing velocity, without emitting signals, they moved as if physics itself bent for them. By nightfall, 100 Dravarian vessels had been reduced to memory. From the surface of Earth, there was still no sign of war. No panic, no response. But the humans had spoken, not through diplomacy, not through fear, but through silence. And behind that silence was control. Unseen, deliberate, lethal. Corvette stood on his darkened bridge, his hands trembling, his eyes fixed on the empty space where his enemies should have been. For the first time in his life, he understood he was not the hunter. He was the one being observed. And Earth, this silent primitive planet, had become a maze built for something far older than the Dravarians could comprehend. Aboard the Oblivion Worm, silence had mutated into suspicion. The fleet was no longer an army. It was a question. An unanswered, unresolved equation spinning slowly above a planet that refused to obey known logic. 100 ships were gone. Thousands of others hung in orbit like drifting bones, sensors twitching, engines humming quietly in standby. Supreme Admiral Korvek had not left the bridge in 36 hours. His voice, once sharp enough to slice through cowardice, had gone hoarse. He no longer barked orders. He issued them like one mutters warnings in the dark, unsure if anyone or anything is listening. He trusted no signal, no feed. He refused to sleep. Sleep meant vulnerability, and Earth had taught him that vulnerability was fatal. Fleet Marshal Harks had withdrawn to her tactical chamber, reprocessing satellite footage, decoding electromagnetic disruptions, and rerunning the same 6 minutes of sensor data from the moment the first obelisk struck. She watched, again and again, the way the Dravarian ship unraveled, not exploded, not incinerated, but dissolved, like paper submerged in acid. She fed the visuals to the ship's battle AI. The AI responded with only one phrase: "This is not war." Park stared at the line for an hour. Meanwhile, in the lower decks of the Oblivion Worm, a quiet rebellion was beginning. Not against Korvek, not against the Empire, but against certainty. Junior officers spoke in hushed tones about hallucinations during rest cycles. Navigation technicians reported reading false constellations. One medic claimed that 5 patients had vanished from the medbay overnight. Beds made, monitors intact, ID tags still on the sheets. When confronted, the internal logs showed no record of those 5 ever existing. Commander Ulrek, one of the more seasoned security heads, decided to investigate. He moved through the lower decks personally, inspecting quarters and speaking to personnel. He was known for his clarity of thought, for his ability to shut down rumors before they bloomed into panic. This time, he found no lies. The crew's memories were consistent. The missing officers had names, service numbers, assignment records, until yesterday. Then, nothing. As Julrik returned to the upper levels, he passed a service technician staring at a blank wall. "Do you see it?" the technician whispered, without turning. Julrik paused. "See what?" "The mountain," the technician said. "It shouldn't be there, but it is. It keeps moving when I blink." Julrik raised his weapon. The technician turned around slowly, his eyes bloodshot and wide, but not fearful. "Tell him," the technician said. "Tell the Admiral the Earth is watching us." Julrik escorted him to the brig himself. Hours later, the technician evaporated mid-cell. No alarm, no body, just dust. Above the planet, the fleet's orbit drifted a degree out of alignment. Normally, such deviation would trigger emergency stabilization. This time, the system waited, deliberately, as if it expected something else to intervene. And something did. From the Pacific Ocean, a single pulse was released into the upper atmosphere. Not a weapon, not a threat, a signal, uncoded, unencrypted. Just 2 tones, one high, one low, repeating every 20 seconds. The pulse was faint. Harks isolated it from the rest of Earth's background noise and ran it through ancient Dravarian archives. To her surprise, it matched something. Not human, Dravarian, a frequency only used once in the Empire's history, during first contact with a now extinct species that had, according to records, destroyed itself through psychic warfare. The frequency had been classified and erased from active use. Harks immediately shut down her console and walked straight to Korvek. He read the match, then reread it, then stared at her as if she had brought a disease onto his bridge. "This planet has seen us before," he muttered. "But that's impossible," she said. "Our charts never marked Earth as visited." "Maybe our charts," he said, "but perhaps someone else marked it long ago." The fleet convened an emergency war council. 11 admirals joined via secure holograms. All spoke at once, fear disguised as strategy. They demanded withdrawal, orbital bombardment, AI cleansing, black hole implosion. Korvek listened. Then he made a decision none expected. "We land," he said. Gasps erupted through the chamber. Korvek continued, "If Earth wants silence, we give it noise. If it hides, we drag it into the light. I will not let this planet defeat us through whispers." He selected a city, large, industrial, but not capital tier, strategically isolated, surrounded by terrain easy to monitor. Human maps called it Novosibirsk. He deployed a single ground strike team of 40 elite soldiers led by Commander Iraf Viakas, one of the few who had never flinched in atmosphere drop drills. Their ship entered the stratosphere in stealth mode, no response from Earth. As the shuttle descended, it passed through thick clouds, then emerged above the city. Everything was still. Cars on roads, lights in windows, power grids online, but not a single human in sight. Arav reported in. The city is intact, but it's empty. No people, no animals, no thermal signatures. He ordered a perimeter sweep. His team spread out, scanning buildings and broadcasting in all local frequencies. Then the signals cut off, one by one. Not jammed, not scrambled, just ended. Harks tried to raise them. No reply. Korvek stood in silence. "Send another team," he said. The second shuttle descended. This time the ship stayed airborne while a smaller scout craft dropped the new squad onto a nearby zone. Within minutes of touchdown, the pilot aboard the main vessel reported screaming, nonverbal, organic, layered voices. Then, the scout team's armor's sensors recorded internal temperature spikes, skin boiling within exosuits. The team disintegrated without environmental cause. The pilot began to ascend. Before he reached cloud level, his ship imploded. The command fleet above Earth dimmed its lights in mourning, not by order, by instinct. The Dravarians no longer followed protocol. They followed fear. Parks locked herself in the data archives, running simulations. She modeled every possible variable: technology, biology, terrain, history. None of it explained the losses. So she fed the system something unorthodox: human behavior patterns, emotional volatility, psychological anomalies. The AI returned with a single assessment. Human warfare includes irrational engagement strategies beyond predicted survival logic. She read it again. Humans didn't fight to win. Humans fought to confuse, to endure, to evolve during the fight. Their weakness was the illusion. Their chaos was armor. And now that illusion had consumed over 300 warships. Parks returned to the bridge. "We miscalculated," she said quietly. "Earth isn't defending itself like a civilization, it's responding like a species. Unified not by command, but by instinct." Korvek clenched his jaw. "Then we were never prepared." The bridge lights flickered. A new message appeared across the main monitor. It was a human voice this time, a woman's. Calm, fluent in Dravarian tongue. "You've misunderstood everything," she said. "This is not your war, it's your test." Then silence returned, and Earth continued to turn. The voice haunted the fleet long after the transmission ended. A human woman, speaking perfect Dravarian, her tone eerily calm, her words deliberate. Korvek replayed the message 32 times within the first hour. Not once did her cadence falter. Not once did she sound angry, afraid, or even curious. She spoke like someone reading the final sentence of a prophecy she had written herself. Korvek stood alone in the observation chamber, a hollow circular deck that looked directly down upon Earth. The glass was reinforced, but he found himself wondering if the planet needed glass to look back. Her voice, that of the unseen human woman, had not included coordinates, threats, or names. She had offered no terms, just a sentence, just a truth. He stared into the clouds, into the blues and grays swirling below, and whispered, "A test of what?" Fleet Marshal Harks no longer waited for orders. She operated independently now, spending long hours with the AI core, feeding it human literature, war footage, and cultural artifacts salvaged from Earth's networks. She watched documentaries, news broadcasts, security cam leaks, anything unfiltered. The more she absorbed, the less she understood. During one session, she played an old Earth interview in which a soldier, young, barely past adolescence, laughed as he described surviving a battlefield with nothing but a spoon. He said it like a joke, but his eyes said otherwise. She paused the feed and stared at his face. "What species laughs at war?" she murmured. Elsewhere across the fleet, order began to erode. Crews went silent for hours at a time, seated at their stations, unmoving, staring at blank monitors. Technical staff forgot routines. Ships drifted from formation and returned without memory of movement. Security logs recorded strange anomalies. Identical footsteps echoing for minutes after no one had walked, lights blinking in patterns that matched no programmed code. On Dreadnought 224A, Captain Varric was found sitting on the floor of his quarters, humming a tune not found in any Dravarian archive. He refused to eat. When asked where he had heard the melody, he replied, "The planet taught it to me." He died 3 hours later. Autopsy revealed no trauma, no poison, just brain collapse. Admiral Shurian, stationed aboard the secondary command ship Windspear, declared a silent lockdown on his vessel. No external transmissions, no signal reception. Total sensory isolation. His crew blacked out every porthole and covered every screen. For 24 hours, the ship floated dark and deaf above the Indian Ocean. When Harks attempted to re-establish contact, the only reply was a single data burst, 4 seconds of static followed by a looping sound, slow, wet breathing. No one answered after that. Korvek summoned his remaining command structure. Only 7 admirals responded in person. 2 refused to leave their ships. 1 had reportedly locked himself inside a cryo chamber without authorization. During the meeting, a junior signals officer interrupted with a report. One of the reconnaissance teams, believed dead, had returned. A shuttle was approaching from the planet's southern pole. Its transponder identified the pilot as Lieutenant Rel, missing since the Novosibirsk descent. Korvek watched the shuttle approach on the main view screen. It flew with perfect alignment, without deviation, without speed fluctuation. Too perfect. He dispatched 4 interceptor units to flank the shuttle. No resistance, no change in course. When the shuttle docked with the Oblivion worm, only 1 person exited, not Rel. A young Dravarian woman, unknown in all records, walked out wearing a pristine Imperial officer's uniform that no one recognized. Her eyes were too steady, her expression too calm. Korvek stood on the hangar deck himself, flanked by guards. She looked at him as if he were the intruder. "I need to speak," she said. Her voice matched the one from the earlier transmission. He raised a hand. "You are not Rel." "No," she said, "but I carry what he left behind." "What are you?" he demanded. She smiled. Not with cruelty, not with kindness, just inevitability. The interface. The bridge between his mind and your species. He was open to understanding, so we gave him understanding. In return, he gave me form. Parks arrived, eyes wide. "Are you human?" "Does it matter?" Korvek drew his blade, the ceremonial weapon passed down to him by his war clan. He pressed the edge to her throat. Her skin did not bleed. She looked him in the eyes. "This is what you do when you cannot define something. You try to end it." "Where's the rest of your team?" he asked. "Transformed," she replied. Hark stepped forward. "Into what?" "Into silence." Hark's breath caught in her throat. "You mean they're dead?" "No," the woman said. "They are finished. The same way a song ends when it has played its last note. You call that death. We call that purpose." Korvek's blade dropped to his side. The woman stepped past him, walking deeper into the ship's core. No one stopped her. Sensors did not trigger alarms. Doors opened for her without command. She paused at the central AI vault and placed her hand on the control panel. The lights dimmed across the entire fleet. Then she whispered something in the language of the Dravarians. It was not translated. Parks understood it anyway. "Your extinction is not our doing, it is your result." Alarms wailed, not human ones. Dravarian emergency warnings, ancient and never before heard. The ship's gravity reversed for 6 seconds, pulling half the bridge crew off their feet. Engines rebooted into silent diagnostic mode. Shields turned inward instead of outward. Korvek ran back to the bridge, breath ragged. Parks followed him, clutching a tablet filled with scrambled code. None of the fleet systems were obeying commands anymore. The entire orbital armada had entered something called Event Protocol 0, a protocol not listed in current archives, a protocol last activated when the Dravarians had first encountered sentience beyond their own. Hark stared at the data streaming across the monitors. One line repeated endlessly. "You are no longer necessary." Korvek slammed his fist into the console. "Who decided this?" The woman's voice returned through every speaker, every hull frequency, every neural link. "You did." The ship trembled. The fleet fractured. Across orbit, Dravarian vessels began to fire on each other, uncommanded. Some exploded from within. Others simply powered down and drifted toward Earth, pulled by a gravitational force no longer measurable by any instrument. On Dreadnought 381, a crew member sliced open her own arm and painted strange glyphs on the wall. claiming she had seen the blueprint of the galaxy in her sleep. On Carrier Arcos, a pilot launched herself into open space without a suit, saluting no one. Inside the Oblivion worm, Harks turned to Korvac. "She's not human," she whispered. "No," he said. "She's what happens after humans." And somewhere deep below the clouds, Earth turned her face upward and waited. Korvac did not remember reaching the escape corridor. One moment he was on the bridge, watching the fleet dissolve into fragments of its former order, and the next he was running, clutching a data core under his arm, his boots slamming against the metal floor of the corridor as emergency lights flickered and warped. The woman, whatever she was, had disappeared from the ship after her last words. No one had seen her walk out, no airlock had cycled, no visual logs recorded her departure. She had simply ended, the way breath ends when the lungs give up. Harks followed closely behind him, limping, her left leg dragging, after a console exploded beside her minutes earlier. Blood leaked between the seams of her armor. She said nothing. Korvac did not ask if she would make it to the launch bay. He had already seen the answer in her eyes. Dreadnoughts outside collapsed like paper in fire. The sky through the hull's viewing ports was ablaze, not with weapon fire, not with plasma, but with light. Raw, white light, bending at unnatural angles, folding into and out of itself like ribbons of gravity. Ships were being pulled downward, not toward Earth, but into Earth. The planet no longer pulled like a sphere of mass, it inhaled. The few remaining commanders who had not succumbed to madness tried to retreat. Some activated emergency fold drives, aiming for jump points far beyond the solar system. But the folds didn't open. The coordinates unraveled as soon as they were entered, replaced with identical destination markers, Earth. The system had become a trap, with only one exit, submission. When Korvac reached the hangar, only one vessel remained, a small cruiser, the Echo Veil, used for diplomatic transit in peacetime. Its stealth capabilities were outdated, its shields were minimal, but its engines were still functional. It was, for now, free. Hark stumbled and dropped to her knees just inside the bay doors. He turned back. She shook her head. "Go," she said, her voice nearly a whisper. "Your knowledge has to survive." He hesitated for a heartbeat. She smiled. "You always said leadership was survival. This is what that means." He ran. The cruiser launched moments later, slipping through the shredded remains of the outer hangar shields. Korvac piloted manually, using short, silent bursts to avoid attention. Not that attention seemed to matter anymore. Most of the orbiting sensors were blind. Ships either floated powerless or burned in silence, crewless, dreaming in the void. He passed the windspear. Her hull was intact, but the lights inside spun like a child's toy, cycling through impossible colors. Through one of the viewports, he saw Admiral Shurian standing still, his hands pressed against the glass, eyes glowing faint blue, face expressionless. Korvac did not call to him. He kept going. Out of the 9,900 ships once arrayed for conquest, no more than 100 remained with active propulsion. Of those, most no longer responded to fleet signals. He watched two cruisers fire on each other without reason, tearing themselves apart over an invisible argument. He veered sharply and shot forward into the outer edge of Earth's orbit, the dark pull of the planet stretching behind him like an unseen hand. It took 12 minutes to break free from Earth's influence. Korvac collapsed in the pilot seat, trembling, clutching the data core tighter. His face was wet, though he hadn't realized he had been crying. He set course for a deep space communications relay once used to contact the Dravarian colonies on the fringes of Sector Jaw 13. With any luck, the signal would reach them within 3 cycles. When the signal beamed out, he included his voice. "This is Supreme Admiral Korvac of the Imperial Fleet. Earth is not what we thought. It is no longer a planet. It is a response. Do not send reinforcements. Do not investigate. If you find this message, remember this. We were tested, and we failed." The signal disappeared into the black, bound for systems that may or may not exist by the time it arrived. The Echo Veil drifted into deep space, engines silent to preserve power. Korvac set the ship on a slow arc toward the uninhabited Tarsus belt. He ate little, slept less, and spoke to no one. The data core beside him pulsed faintly with encrypted memory. recordings of transmissions, fragments of erased logs, corrupted images that bled with colors his species had no words for. 1 week passed. On the 8th day, the core unlocked itself. Korvac stared at the console as the files opened without prompt. One by one, the corrupted images aligned. Then the voice returned. The same calm female voice, spoken now directly into his ship's systems. "You passed one thing," she said. "You ran." He clenched his jaw. "Who are you?" "I am not who," she answered. "I am what remains." The image appeared, a map of the galaxy, altered subtly. On the Dravarian side, dozens of star systems were now marked in red, crossed out, their names blurred. The map scrolled further, faster, showing systems he had never seen. Vast arcs of space mapped in detail beyond known science. In the center of this new map was Earth, but not labeled as Earth. Labeled as Origin Point 0A. The voice continued. "You came seeking a prize. You found a mirror. What you brought was conquest. What we returned was consequence." He gritted his teeth. "What are you planning to do with the others?" "There are no others," she replied. "Only echoes now." He slammed his fist into the console. "Why me?" "Because someone must tell the story." The screen dimmed. The data core powered down for the final time. He sat there, breathing, staring at the dark monitor. For years, the Echo Veil drifted across the void. Eventually, it was found by a patrol ship near the ruins of the Zalix line. The rescue team retrieved Korvac's ship from orbit around a lifeless moon. Inside, they found him older, thinner, hollow-eyed, but alive. He told them everything. He told them about Earth, about the silence, about the voice, about the ships that died without flame, the crews that vanished into madness, and the world that had once seemed primitive, now ascended to something terrifyingly divine. He told them all of it. The Dravarian Empire tried to suppress his report, but the whisper spread. Star systems began marking Earth as quarantined. The route to Sol was removed from navigation charts, and the few who had dared approach it vanished, one by one. Korvac lived the rest of his days in a remote observatory, far from politics, far from command. He spent his final years staring at a single blue dot through an old telescope, his hand always resting on the side of the monitor, as if waiting for the voice to return. It never did. Earth remained silent, and the stars moved on. But in the deepest corners of the galaxy, where wanderers still drifted and empires rose and fell, the story endured, about the world that did not fight, about the invasion that turned into a reckoning, and about the voice that reminded all who listened. Some planets are not meant to be conquered. Some are meant to judge.